So Kat, Ruthie, you guys go ahead and unmute and take it away.
Okay, well, let me tell you how pleased I was when you asked me to introduce Ruthie, one of my biggest heroes. And I check in with Ruthie every once in a while, and I tell her that. So we used to see each other a lot more, but anytime anybody asks me about Ruthie and, hey, what's Ruthie up to? Ruthie is a house on fire, is what I say. She is just getting so much done as far as content strategy, content management, her podcasts. Like she mentioned, she's doing voiceovers for books and just, multi-talented. And I love seeing her new baby goats. I know that's been a goal of hers for a while, so I was real pleased to see that. But Ruthie is just very impressive, so talented and so much energy. And I can't wait to hear what you have for us, Ruthie.
Thanks so much for that, Kat. That makes me feel so good. And actually thinking about that, just because of everything that Kat said that was so nice, and this happens to me periodically not with Kat, because I know Kat is paying attention to what I'm doing, but as part of your networking, and we're all kind of, virtual, I challenge you this week between, let's say now and Friday, that you reach out to somebody, even if you just send them an email or a direct message, somebody maybe you haven't spoken to in a while, but whom you've seen doing great things, and let them know. Because I can't tell you any one time that I've been like, wow, wish they hadn't told me they thought I was doing a good job. And so that could be a way to open some lines of communication for you. But I can tell you from experience, it's always appreciated. And it's always a pleasant surprise. So thanks so much, Kat. Okay, so like the title suggested, we are going to be talking about the content spike that we've seen since quarantine started. So, using the content consumption spike to generate additional leads. So one of the big things for us, and I've always enjoyed going to networking in Annapolis. I had some childcare changes, so I wasn't able to make it as often as I used to. But I started coming to networking in Annapolis in was that 2018, I think? Was the very first time I came, and I tried to come back at least once a month. But, we're kind of out for these in-person networking events for the most part, at least on, the grander scale, especially if your business relies on things like conferences and large scale networking events. So we've had more people turn to digital marketing, content marketing, social media marketing who hadn't before. And so that is what I wanted to talk to you about today in terms of looking at how you might change your marketing strategy. But before we get into that, I wanted to share a little bit about myself. So I am a B2B content marketing consultant, and my company is called Defy the Status Quo. The reason why is because there's a lot of boring content out there, and that's the status quo, and I won't let you do it. I won't let you do it. So I served in the U.S. Army for 8.5 years as a Persian Farsi linguist, and then I was a federal contractor for a couple years after that, doing the same job. But I started working part-time as a marketing consultant, as a content consultant, creating the strategies and creating content itself. And then I quit my job in the intelligence industry after having my 4th child, and I started running my business full-time. Let's see. Sorry. Somebody's doing something in the chat, but I can't see it. And so, yes, I have my goats and I have my chickens and ducks and my 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl. And yes, I've seen Frozen a million times as well. So content consumption increase. And this is, we've seen an 18% increase in in-home data usage. So the amount of data you use while you're at home, they've seen, compared with the same time period last year, they've seen an increase of 18%, which is incredibly significant. And so I wanted to share some numbers with you so you can kind of understand why I feel like this topic is worth discussing. So you understand the why, and then we can kind of get more into the what and how after that. So time spent on messaging services, that's Facebook Messenger, that's WhatsApp, that's pretty much any of those messaging services you can think of, increase is 17%. Not to mention Facebook Messenger conversion rates. People are starting to do marketing, messaging and things. If you follow a Facebook page, they, you know, if you opt in, they can contact you via Messenger and things like that. More companies are starting to look into that, which is great because the read-through rates on those are incredibly high. Time spent on social media in general. Now, maybe not everybody is guilty of this, but with us not being able to connect in person, a lot more people are, you know, leaning in on social media. So they're seeing a 32% increase across the board in terms of usage. And then if you break it up by generation, some generations are spending more time on social media than others. And you also have to consider your target market as well. So if you're a grandparent, for example, and you're on social media because your children post pictures of your grandkids, you are getting more social media exposure as well. And I say that because my grandpa's on Facebook all the time because I'm posting pictures of his grandkids, his great grandkids now. Traffic on YouTube up 15%. And that's just on the website itself. They're up 15%. That's a ton of views. That's a lot of exposure there. And then podcasts, oh, how do I move this? All right, podcast streaming up 30%, which is not a super surprise because you can actually, you know, listen to podcasts while you're doing chores and things like that. And if you like to listen to professional business podcasts like I do, you know, you're working on yourself and working on your business by absorbing that new knowledge. All right, so right now, I think is a fantastic time to experiment with what you do with your marketing, particularly online, because again, we're kind of denied those opportunities right now in terms of meeting people in person and at like larger networking events. And this was something I discussed with a guest on my podcast most recently. She was my most recent guest, and she was telling me that she decided to take quarantine as a time to experiment. She's a makeup artist and she couldn't go out and do people's makeup because of quarantine. So how could she still engage her audience and get out there when events had been a primary lever for her? So she decided to experiment with live streaming. So over quarantine, and it's been months now, right? Over quarantine, your target audience has developed new habits and new tastes. Not all of these new habits will survive quarantine as we all start, you know, venturing out into the world and creating some normalcy, but some of them will. So some people who didn't realize they liked podcasts now will probably continue to listen to them. Myself, one of the new things I've discovered is I actually really like I like to participate in live streams. I like to be the person in the comments, but I also like doing live streams. And before quarantine, I had never done a live stream. My most recent one I did with my goats, and I was talking about the buyer's journey and why my goats made me think of it, which ended up being a pretty big hit on LinkedIn. So now is a great time to test new marketing channels. And so that's one thing I wanted to ask was, have you noticed any new habits for yourself? It might be that your content consumption is generally increased. It could have been that it decreased because you're spending more time on a physical hobby. Your content consumption might have remained the same, but maybe it's changed in terms of what it is that you're consuming. I'm consuming a lot more business content myself. So does anybody have any changes?
Yeah, Ruthie, I find myself watching a lot more media on, you know, Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that in the background because I just find myself at the office a lot more lately. I mean, of course, you know, I'm addicted to social media. So
yeah.
But speaking of experimenting with different platforms, you've made some very funny TikTok videos, you know, and TikTok is one of those newer things. And, you know, so I think you're doing really well at your experiment.
Thank you. Yeah. And so just on TikTok real quick. So I have been using TikTok, but one of my favorite things to do is to take the videos that I make that are relevant to my business and reposting them in other areas because it shows a different side of my personality that people maybe have not seen. And so they've actually done maybe not as well on TikTok, but they've done great on LinkedIn and done really well on Instagram, which suits me just fine. So at this point, TikTok helps me generate those videos that I can then repost in other platforms where my presence is stronger. But man, I make myself laugh sometimes.
You do. Well, you mentioned goats, and my best one is when you got locked in the goat cage. Not to digress.
Oh no, that was the chicken coop, but yeah.
The chicken coop. Yeah, you got locked in the chicken coop. Not to digress, please.
So anybody else noticing some changes in your habits? Are you consuming any new forms of content you weren't before, or maybe more or less than you used to?
Matt?
So Yeah, so for me, Ruthie, it's not so much where I'm consuming it, but I've noticed like me and a lot of my friends and a lot of my neighbors are consuming a lot more DIY type content. Now, whether that's on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, but I've been trying to think of there ways that I can make that resonate with people. You know what I mean? Like it's not just where or how, but what they're actually consuming. And for me, it's been a lot of like DIY, home builder, stuff like that.
Yes. Yes. And I think, like, for example, one of the things that was going around a lot was people, I think it was in April, everybody was making bread. Right?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine the number of hits that these videos on YouTube that talk about making bread, how many hits they got? Because everybody was making bread.
You know, Matt brings up a good point. A lot of men are at home more often. Maybe not just Matt, but you know, now's the time people are doing those honeydew projects and getting those home improvement things they said they were going to do off their list.
Yep.
But it's a perfect example of people watching more how-to fix, how-to videos, and that's the type of blogs that a lot of us write.
Yes, that's exactly right. As a way to kind of demonstrate that we know what we're talking about, you know, or that we know how to, you know, do whatever it is that we're selling, whether that's a product or a service.
Ruthie,
Chris?
can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead, Rod.
So TikTok, I know it primarily as what my kids will post silly videos of them dancing on. So content-wise, how are your short videos fitting in with the regular fare that's on TikTok? It seems like a pretty unique platform to do what I imagine you're doing.
Yeah, so the audience there is definitely smaller, but since quarantine started, the number of people over the age of 18 who are on TikTok is a lot higher.
But you also said you use the tool and then take the video off and put it on other platforms.
Yes, and so there's a lot of dancing, that's true, but most of the things that I follow are people who, so let's see. The Notebook. Somebody mentioned the movie The Notebook in the comments. They were surprised that nobody had selected as a favorite. I took an audio snippet from The Notebook and acted out the different perspectives. The part where he's asking her what she wants and she's like, I don't know. So I acted out the different perspectives, and then the text I put on it was you to your clients, asking your clients what they want and them telling you that they don't know. So that did actually pretty decent on TikTok because people thought it was funny. But it blew up on LinkedIn because everyone there thought it was just hilarious.
Cool.
So I've been using it to kind of condense concepts and present them, but it's not bad. It's not bad for sure. Okay, so looking at experimenting, and we are going to talk a bit more about these different types of content, but I wanted to kind of get your mind on goals, right? Because as business owners, we have to focus on goals, and too often I see businesses, consultants, solopreneurs, I see people engage in different types of content without solid goals. And you can kind of tell because they'll post, publish, and then they just kind of drop off. Probably because they didn't walk away with that pocket full of, clients or customers that they thought they were going to after a short amount of time. So when you experiment with marketing, with sales, with other business processes, you should tie your experiment to a goal. And so in marketing especially, but I know the other business functions also use these types of goals and this particular acronym called SMART goals. And some people use different definitions for the various parts of the acronym, but I went with specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So that's you deciding on the result that you'd like to see, and then making sure that it's measurable. So attaching some type of number to it, and then making sure it's achievable, because so I've read Think and Grow Rich, so don't get me wrong, right? But if you put a goal that's like, it's such a good book, isn't it, Joan? If you put your goal way up here, right? Like how you would maybe a 5-year goal, if you give yourself a month for, an unachievable goal, when you don't achieve it, you're going to feel bad. So maybe you say you want like 100% increase in one of your marketing metrics, and you get 20%, but you were only at 5% before. That 20% is fantastic, but because you said you wanted 100% increase, do you know how to get to 100%? So you need to be able to achieve your goal. And then you want to make it relevant. So this is where I always like to tie them back to actual business goals. So marketing and other, business functions, we get siloed. And so we're just like marketing, marketing, marketing. Oh, our marketing metrics, they're so good. And you're like, okay, but why isn't that translating to sales? Right? Or you look at some other functions like, oh, our efficiency is really good. Okay, but why is it still costing a lot? If it's efficient, shouldn't it cost less? So you want to make sure you tie it to an overarching business goal, and that helps you ensure that it's relevant. And then making it time bound. Do you need a month to see results? Do you need 6 months to see results? Do you need a year to see results, but you're going to check in quarterly? And so you'll have quarterly goals. You need to make those decisions. And so that way you can kind of check in with yourself. If you say a year from now, you're going to be a month from your deadline and be like, oh, well, I didn't really do anything because you weren't checking on it. So SMART goals. And so this is an example of a SMART goal. Let's say you decide to send a weekly newsletter. A lot of businesses do use email marketing already, but it's usually to, hey, you've purchased something, here's an alert about something else. But if you're not sending a weekly kind of update newsletter, let's say that's what you've decided to do, or you've done it periodically, but not consistently. So you've decided that your goal during quarantine per se is to stay connected to customers via email. This is tough. It takes work and you have to really know your customer, but it can yield awesome results. Measurable, we want to increase or establish an open rate at 40%. And then to make it achievable, let's say your current open rate is 30%, right? So a 10% increase, that's pretty modest, and it sounds achievable to me. You want it to be relevant, so you've increased the open rate, you want to increase your brand awareness. You're worried that because you haven't been able to get out to these events, your Chamber of Commerce events, networking in Annapolis and things, you're worried that people are forgetting about you. So brand awareness is your goal here. And then time bound. Okay, we want to see that 10% increase within 6 weeks. If you send a weekly newsletter, that's definitely enough instances. That should be 6 different instances for you to measure and understand your open rate and see how people are doing with the content that you're sending. Pro tip, one of the easiest ways to increase the open rate is to spend more time on your subject line. Your subject line is like your title for a blog post. If it's not interesting, people tend not to open it. So spend more time there if you are wondering about your open rates right now. Okay, types of content. And these are the main categories, I would say. And then each one kind of has subcategories based on how you approach it. And almost every single one of these types of content, you can guest. You can do it for someone else's site. And that, again, can get you backlinks. It can get you, kind of increase your authority and develop your know, like, and trust, which we say in the PR and marketing worlds. So blogging, one of the lower forms of effort, it leverages your website, which, most of you already have. And it allows you to gain some SEO power, search engine optimization power, because you can rank for certain keywords, but then it also helps you establish your authority and kind of build your content library, which is important for any of you who are interested in speaking and podcasting, guest podcasts and things like that. You want to build your content library so it establishes your authority. So let's say a goal would be a 30% traffic increase because of your blog. And so if you want something like that, you have to make sure you're promoting and distributing your content. You can't just hit publish and then expect everybody to just swarm it if they don't, if they don't already do that. So promoting it on social media, sending it out to your email list and things like that can help you see that goal of a 30% traffic increase, especially if you're not posting before. Okay. Put this over here for right now. So looking at video, there's a couple of subsets of video, but one of the things I really like about video is that it does convey your personality and people can kind of get to know you. And that's one thing. You want to make sure that you are putting some energy into your videos. You don't just want to sit there and be really stiff if you're doing a video that's, you onto your, face. And then like a subset of this video would be live streaming. And so a lot more live streams have been popping up and we've seen it. I think Suzanne, I think you were just talking about your YouTube live streaming. I've seen a lot more Facebook live streaming on Facebook pages and then also within the groups. But, if you've never done video before and you are posting on YouTube, even getting 10 views per video, can help you at least have a metric to measure. If you already have a large audience, then maybe you want 100 views per video. So you have to make that decision based on how based on how large your audience already is. And then looking at email, again, email has a lot of different metrics that you can measure, but it's a way for you to kind of personally reach out. And oftentimes, if you structure your emails properly, or for this particular purpose, I don't want to say properly, if you structure your emails for this particular purpose, you can also elicit responses and get people to reply to you, starting up conversations. This is particularly helpful for service-based businesses who don't necessarily have, products to sell. And so we've kind of talked about email already, but let's say you want a click-through rate increase. And so maybe your goal is a 7% click-through rate. One thing to keep in mind is that not all emails, the goal of all emails is not necessarily to click through. If you've attended a webinar, you've probably gotten some reminder emails. Usually the reminder is right there in the subject line. So I might not even open it, but the reminder served its purpose. If you send me the login information, like for Zoom, and you want people to open that, so you may see a click-through rate of 50 or 60, 70% because people are using that information. So keep that in mind as you're evaluating your emails. And then looking at gated content. Gated content just means that you have to give probably your name and email address. There's a gate in front of that content. Now, you want to make sure that whatever it is you're creating for that is that it's above and beyond anything that you've ever done, probably, just because, a lot of people have ebooks on their site, white papers, webinars. Webinars work really well. So it's because it's a more interactive type of content, and it also has a deadline attached to it, so you can get people to sign up easier. If you have an ebook on your site, maybe 5 signups a week would be good for you. And back over here. Something to consider if you do have an ebook. A friend of mine presented this idea to me. You may consider bundling it with complementary companies, right? So if I have an ebook and John has an ebook and Kat has an ebook, or Kat's got a recorded webinar or something, we're all in marketing and we serve different audiences to an extent, but there's some overlap. We could offer all of our gated pieces of content as a bundle, generating more interest and more signups. So that might be something to consider. It actually just came to mind. I wasn't planning on talking about that. So you guys are getting it straight from the tap here. So social media. All of us kind of have our favorite platforms. Some of us don't like any of the platforms, and that is totally fine. So I'm not going to tell you that you have to pick one over the other, or say that you absolutely even have to be on social media. But right now, it's highly recommended just because we aren't able to connect as easily as we used to. And so for me, I like LinkedIn a lot, love LinkedIn. And so if maybe your goal could be 10 new connections, 10 new relevant connections per week. But social media, especially if your website doesn't have a lot of natural SEO power yet, social media should be somewhere where you're promoting consistently the content that you've created. My website's about 1.5 years old now. And when I first started, social media traffic made up about 50% of my overall traffic. Now, SEO, most of my traffic now comes from search engines. So it takes time to build up that audience, but once you do, then it can become more passive, but it does take that work initially. But notice, like I said, 10 weekly new connections. So that becomes a goal, right? That's time bound, that's achievable, because most people are open to connecting. And that it's time bound and it's achievable and it's measurable. So did I connect with 10 new people this week? Yes or no? Okay, no, how come? Oh, well, I didn't really send any connection requests. So you can evaluate that and move forward. And then, because I am really excited to talk about podcasts, because I saw some people mentioning they were interested in being podcast guests. But if you're interested in starting a podcast, definitely do your research. I've got some stuff on my website about it. It's no small thing to do, but as business owners, especially if you're in the B2B space, you can grow and connect with prospects by offering to interview them on your podcast. It's a great way to reach out. Hey, can I interview you on my podcast versus, hey, will you buy my stuff? Right? So that's 2 different things. And most people are going to ignore the second one, but the other one, they'll say, oh, wow, they think I should be interviewed on their podcast. That works out really well. If you're in the B2C space, then interviewing, people in related industries or people who are in your industry, but kind of overlap with your audience, whereas maybe they're not quite the same audience, that can be really beneficial too, because it increases, you know, your audience. You kind of borrow their audience and kind of get them on your podcast. And that's true really for any of these content forms. If you invite somebody on, like Kat, if I say, hey, Kat, do you want to do a guest blog post with me? Right? Kat's thinking, okay, let's think about it. What could we do here? Maybe we trade guest posts, right? Because Kat and I, we know each other. We trade guest posts. We've got backlinks. And then Kat and I were both in marketing. So I know that we're both going to do a great job marketing those posts, and it expands both of our audience. Same thing could be happening on video. And like I said, we could do something with gated content, social media. It always works. So collaborating can help you grow your audience too. And people are really liking the collaboration right now in quarantine, because it allows them, you know, they don't want to see, okay, wow, Kat's doing a video today and Ruthie's doing a video today. Which one? No, now you could watch Kat and Ruthie, you know, shoot the stuff, you know, and just kind of relax. But, you know, you get to watch us both at the same time. And that's an exchange of ideas. So it creates higher value content. So looking at your types of content, I advise that you should pick one to focus on at any given time. And this is what I was referring to before about people kind of going all over the place with their content. You will struggle if you add too many new things, and it will be hard to measure, and you may struggle to keep track. So I would pick something where you feel comfortable, right? So like when I think of Lee, I've seen Lee speak at networking in Annapolis. And so in my head, I think he would do great on video because his personality comes across when he speaks. He's very good at it. And more people are consuming video content these days. My husband was sitting on the couch just watching random videos about things as YouTube fed it to him. And I said, are you just watching videos? What are you doing? He's like, yeah, what else am I going to do? So keep in mind, know your audience in this regard. What are they doing? Are they reading more? Are they watching more? Do they like email? Would they prefer text message marketing? Are they listening to more podcasts? Ask yourself these questions and then decide how you want to move forward. And that is pretty much the best advice I can give. Know your audience, pick one. And once you get a handle on that one and you can kind of start to see some returns, if you want to incorporate other channels, totally fine. Pick another one. It can be really hard when you try to do too much at once. And I'm saying that because I do it all the time. I do it all the time. So don't be like me. So if you'd like to learn a bit more about some of the things that I've talked about, I've got a lot of resources on my website, defythestatusquo.com. The big one being the content marketing section on the blog. And if you click there, I've done blog posts on podcasting, webinars, video. I've done stuff on augmented reality for marketing. There's a lot there that you can dig into. And then I've also got the recording from my Marketing During Turbulent Times webinar. We're starting to adjust, I think, to COVID-19 a bit. But things are still turbulent in terms of our society and what people are experiencing right now. So you still have to be careful with your marketing. And particularly if you're going to pick up a new channel, you definitely want to make sure that your messaging is exactly what you want it to mean. So I think that's the big thing, is sometimes we put stuff out and we don't mean it the way that people may or may not interpret it. So that's why it can be helpful if you work with a copywriter or content writer. And then I've got the Business Owner's Guide to Content Marketing there on my site too. I love to connect on social media. I feel like it's a nice way for me to be able to support anybody that I've connected with, commenting on their stuff, sharing their stuff, and, you know, kind of helping, you know, promote you. So please connect with me on social media if you feel so inclined. And that is it for me today.
That's awesome, Ruthie. Thank you so much. Very good stuff. I like how all of your ideas are measurable and not overstated. I mean, that's really important stuff, don't you think, Lee Crumball?
Oh, yes.
I do think so, John. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just kept thinking about you, and she kept setting all those goals. Strategy is important, Ruthie, and what it seems to me like is you've just been chipping away at things, but in a way that, you know, makes sense and is easy to do. And now all of a sudden, you know, you've flipped over the marketing from, you know, social media and things that you have to pay for. And now you're getting it organically.
Yes. Yes, and that's exactly right. And I'm just now seeing everybody's comments, so I'm sorry about that. Yeah, millennials are starting to flood TikTok. Like if you look at some of the millennial hashtags, there are billions of videos there. Yeah, so some people don't like it, but Gen Z, they've been for the most part accepting of the millennials coming on there. Moms on TikTok is a pretty big hashtag. I use it. The platform for millennials, Instagram. Lori, I don't know. I don't like Instagram and I'm a millennial, but I often don't have super pretty pictures like this right here. This is not normal. So like, I don't know if Instagram would be happy with that. So when I record videos and my hair is kind of crazy and stuff, I send it to LinkedIn and that seems to do really well there. So, I couldn't tell you, but I'm not a huge fan of Instagram. It's kind of, it's so full, but other people do really well. Other people do really well on it. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of different people on TikTok, Steve, a lot. And I follow a lot of, different types of people too. So let's see. Yes, collaboration lives. Love it.
I think, Ruthie, that, LinkedIn is having a little bit of a comeback right now. I really feel like a lot of the social media channels right now are flooded with non-business things and some things maybe even a turnoff to us. And so I think more and more people are kind of going back to LinkedIn a little bit too. And again, even though LinkedIn isn't the #1 platform, Ruthie is proof positive that if you focus down on one as a primary and then have maybe a second and a third, but if you focus down on the one as a primary, you can have success on any of these platforms.
Yep.
You can have success on any of these platforms. So is that one of your goals, Ruthie, is to reach out to 10 new LinkedIn contacts a week?
Oh no, my number's higher. But so the thing is, and this is what I was talking about a little bit with some of the goals, it depends on your audience size already, but I've been working on my momentum. I started focusing on LinkedIn really hard January of last year, and I had maybe 500 connections, maybe, right? Everybody tries to get to 500 because then it says 500 plus and they don't say any more numbers after that. But now I'm at like 3,000 and some change connections and over 4,000 followers. But I've been working on my guest podcasting, guest blogging, speaking. And so just yesterday, I think like 15 people connected with me because I spoke at the Freelance Writing Success Summit about authority marketing. And so a ton of people connected with me from there. So as you invest in content marketing, it's a business investment to grow your content library and to grow your name. What will end up happening is people will invite you. People will connect with you, and connecting with you will become a potential business decision. It could be of value to that other person's business because they are familiar with you. So that has been my marketing strategy, is to position myself that way. And not everybody does it that way, and it's totally fine. But that's the way that I've been doing it. And so I've kind of gained that momentum and, contributing on articles and things like that. Cause that's why I recommend Help a Reporter Out, HARO. I've been using that to get backlinks because they ask for your advice. They put out inquiries and you can respond. And if they choose yours, you get a backlink and your name's in an article. So
can we highlight that again? You Help a Reporter Out.
Yes, Help a Reporter Out. If you Google just that phrase, you will come up with their site, and they send out inquiries 3 times a day, and they're organized by industry. And so, like I say, you just choose the ones you want to respond to. And if they pick you, sometimes they don't even tell you. They'll just tag you on the social media post. And if that doesn't happen, you can always use a website like Ahrefs, ahrefs.com to check your backlinks. So I like to check my backlinks like once a month. And sometimes I see new ones there because they linked me and didn't tell me. So I'm in an AmericanExpress.com article because of using Help a Reporter Out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was like,
I have a quick question. I'm noticing, at least it seems to me, more people are doing Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. Is anyone else noticing that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I've definitely seen more people do it. And like I said, I didn't even do Facebook Lives until quarantine had been going on for a bit. I found that I really like to be in them. And I think part of it is very much like a webinar, right? Or like how we're here as at this meeting in this event. We all know, as I'm looking at all of your videos, I know that we're all here together right now, right? Like it's virtual, but we're all meant, you know, we're here. I can see you. This isn't a recording. And I think that that is part of the draw. When I can no longer go, right, to see, I can go and at least shake Rod's hand at networking in Annapolis. I can't do that right now. But you know, next best thing is to kind of meet and see each other like this. And I think Facebook Live kind of does the same thing, because you know that you're participating in information and kind of an event that's happening right now. And I think there's like a mental appeal for that as you know, we're out for sports, like sports aren't happening. We can't go to shows. You know, I like to go to plays and musicals. It's happening right there. Like we can't do any of that.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just, I find them to be fun, even to participate. So I always like to comment and show support that way. But yes,
Cool.
definitely seeing a lot more lives.
Cool. I've been toying with the idea, so I appreciate the feedback.
Yes. Oh, schedule it. Schedule your live and promote it and let people know that you're going to do it. That will help get return, you know, because people try to go live randomly. And again, unless your audience is huge, like you're Gary Vee and you go live randomly, like people probably aren't going to make the time for it. You know, like if you randomly go live at 5 o'clock, well, I'm eating dinner with my kids. So
You have to be thoughtful about it. And
yes.
after the live video, you've got to go and you've got to share it in groups, share it in different groups, and try to get you know, the most views. I'm like a view junkie, Ruthie. I need the most views out of all.
Well, and that's, I mean, people say something like views is a vanity metric, but if nobody is seeing you, how do the other metrics matter? Like nobody saw it. So like, you're not going to know about anything else. And for Facebook Live and Instagram Live, you can save those lives and repurpose them and use them later. So I did a live with my goats about the buyer's journey, why my goats made me think of the buyer's journey. And that was like 15 minutes long in my Facebook group. I took it, edited it down to like 2 minutes and shared it on LinkedIn. Again, boom, about 1,000 views in less than 24 hours on LinkedIn, and a ton of comments and people messaging me like, oh my goodness, those were real goats. And wow, buyer's journey, like Ruthie, what are you doing over there? So, you know, I started a lot of conversation from that by taking it and repurposing it.
Yeah. Angie D, did you have a comment?
Yes, I was just going to say I am live on Facebook every Friday. We showcase a lot of our DJs at 9 p.m. every time. And I will tell you, my most popular DJ, of course, is DJ Negro. He does a lot of club music, but it has increased the number of people checking out our Facebook page. And also sometimes that translates over into our Instagram page. So we've not done a whole lot of Facebook Live before quarantine, but we're finding more people come to our Facebook every Friday to see what we're doing, because it's Takeover Fridays at 9 p.m. on Facebook.
Yeah.
You see how Angie, she wrapped an event name around it. She told you it's going to be every Friday at 9 o'clock. It's consistent. It's measurable. It's not 5 days a week. It's 1 day a week. You know, so these are very successful attributes to her campaign, where she's not biting off more than she can chew, and she's having measurable results. You know, very good, I think. Thank you. Good questions. Guys, we're wrapping up here. It's 1:07. Ruthie, I want to thank you so much for the presentation. We really look forward to having you back here in a few weeks. And thank everybody. See you on Tuesday. I promise I'll be on time.
Thank you, everyone.
And that's back to reality.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Great job. Great job.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you
All right,
so
guys.
much.
Have a
Everyone,
great
have a
4th.
good weekend.